Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the next episode. So in here, what I want us to do is when we click on one of these, it should remain selected. Okay, so that's easy enough because we just have to add the active class to one of these depending on what the URL says over here. So in order for that to work, we need to know what's in the URL. And currently we don't have a way to do that. So let's fix that. So we go back to our project. And I'm going to go to my classes folder. And inside the core classes, there's the router. Because the router is where everything happens. That's where our app is running from. So we can set that up here. Now I want a variable that I can access at any point in here. So what I'll do is I'll attach it to the class itself. And I'm going to say, since we're inside the function and this is where we load everything from, let me see here. This is where we load the controller from. And just to remind myself, okay, so these things are being rendered inside the template render. That's where the view files are being rendered from, I guess. Okay, but everything else, let's see here. So this is inside the function. So I want to check to see, because what I really want is a global variable that I can use to fix, to put stuff in. So for example, if I have router here, I can do this in static mode. So what I can do is, let me just say public, where is this? Public static. And then let's name it URL. Okay, URL like that. So this is going to be equal to an empty array like that. Now the reason I've made it public is because I want it accessible outside of this class. And the reason I've made it static is because I want it to be accessible without instantiating the class. So that it's not part of the instance of a class, but it's in general part of the class. All right, so to explain that, how this can be accessed, I can now go to, let's say, inside the controller. Where am I? This is the admin controller. That's what I'm looking for right there. So when I'm here, I can access this by just saying router. Now, router is inside the core namespace, so we have to do that. So I just want to show what's inside this when I do that. So I'm going to say router and use the double colon to get a static variable and URL like that. And let's just echo that and see where that excuse me, where that takes us. So let me refresh the page. And it's not showing anything here because of the stuff in the way. So I'm just going to put the HTML in the way. So I'm just going to die there. So let's see what happens. And as you can see, it shows me an empty array, which is correct because we have created an empty array here. Okay, so this is how you kind of make a global variable. I would have just created a something that's part of the instance, but the problem is when we are doing things like template render, it means now everything is running inside here. So unless we send it through here, we're not going to have access to that. So this is the dilemma you can have if you need to. So global variables are kind of discouraged because it makes it difficult to know where the value was changed if you're trying to follow up and see where the error occurred, if you have an error. So an alternative to doing it this way is you could make this one a public but not static, like so. So just going to say public URL. Now with PHP 8, I think you can actually name this like so, and it's going to work. I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, but you can name these types public, private, and so on. So with that, this doesn't make it static. Now it has to be part of the instance. Okay, so in that situation, I can't do this. Instead, I'll have to echo it like this. I'll say this. Like that. This should work exactly the same. Let me refresh. And there you go, you have it there. But the difference is that this is part of the instance right now. Okay, this instance in here. The router instance is because I can use this because we are running all of this inside the router. So this means the router. So this is a much better approach because if there's an error, I'll know where it will be easier to find it because I can trace easily where this value is being edited. Unlike a global variable that can be edited from anywhere in the project, that becomes difficult. So now the problem is I cannot access this within my template class, which is where my views are actually rendered. So if I tried this, let me cut that. Let me go to the admin view. Okay, so right here, where is that? Right around here. So let's add some PHP tags here just to see what happens. So if I tried this here, I think I'm gonna get an error unless I'm missing something. So let's go down here and see it just says an undefined property. I can't see the error properly, so I just have to do the view page source and go to the end, and you see undefined property template URL, because this in this context becomes the template and not the router. So that changes everything, right? Now we can't assign URL to the template because we're not going to only be using it in the template all the time. We will want to use it in the controllers as well, which is inside the router. So we can't have two of these at the same time because that will create some confusion. So we just need to add it to the router. The only thing is we just have to pass it into, just like we do with other variables. So what I'm going to do here is change that to URL as a variable, like that. And so what I need to do here is add, just like I'm adding stuff here into the data, I can add URL like that, and then use this URL like that. So that way I'll have access to it inside the inside here in the template. So now this is gonna work as intended. So let me refresh. Let's see now. Okay, so as you can see, it's an array here. Not sure why. Oh, because I queued it after that. So you can see it's working there. So that's one approach to do it. I much rather do it this way than the global variable because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. So with that said, let's add some values to the URL here. So what I want that to contain is all the slashes inside the URL here. So for example, if I have, let's say, I say /admin, like if I refresh this for a sec, let me remove what's in the view file here for a minute. Let me remove the die. We don't need that. So let me refresh. Okay, so we have everything. Now in here, when I click on, let's say, upload video, so in that particular controller, it can't see, it doesn't have that URL thingy because it's not global. So we have admin slash upload video. So what I want that to contain is two items, admin and upload video. So item 0 is the page and item 1 is the next item, and so on and so forth. If there are multiple items, they should all be in there. So that's easy enough to make. So let me copy this so that it's part of the other controllers as well. So let's save. Let's add it to all these controllers and save. That way we can use it when we need it in the view file. So just do that to all the controllers. Let's paste that one as well. And finally, this one over here. Okay. Now inside the router is where we're going to set that value. So let's go to the router. So there is URL. And when we get here, we just want to see a part where we are requiring the file, which is right there. Okay. And then we've got these params here. I don't actually remember what these params are. Oh, those are the variables in there. So let's see what params contains in every instance. So all I'm going to do is do dd, and let's look at params here, because literally I've forgotten what it should contain. Okay, so let me just give it a die here so that we can see properly without the HTML getting in the way. And let's see what we have. So it's an empty array here. Yeah, I think it's an empty array because we don't have any values in there that are described by the root that we are using. So currently these are the routes that the routes that we are using, and none of them have actual variables like these. Okay, so what I want is just to contain that as array elements. So what I'm gonna do is, let's forget about params here. What we'll do is split the URL. So what we're gonna do is use another function, or a method. So I'm just gonna say this like so. URL is equal to, and then I'm just gonna do this, and then just say split URL. So we're gonna create that method. Okay, so right here, let's see, post get, these are required to not be private. So let's create a private function here. Now this one is private because we are only using it inside this class. So like that, split, and I want to be given what to split. So this one could be a string. It's going to be a string, and URL, and we're returning an array ideally. Okay, so let's return an empty array if everything fails, like that, just to make sure we can return. Now if there's nothing in there, still we need to return an empty array, right? So what we're going to do is split whatever the URL is at the time. So I'm just going to say parts. I'm just going to call it parts and say explode. That's how we split a string, and that's what we are splitting against, and that's URL, like that. Okay, that's great. Now I don't want to have an empty item if there's a slash at the end there, but with nothing else, let's just return parts here. So I'm just gonna say explode. Actually, explode always returns an array regardless. Even though this is not there, it will return one item. So in that case, we can just return directly here without having to go around and naming these things. So we can just say return like that. Okay, so let's look at what we got with that. So if I refresh, okay, too few arguments to the function. Okay, that's my bad. We were supposed to give it something to split here. So what are we splitting here? This is the path URL, because that's what we got from the URL. Okay, so let's refresh. All right, so as you can see, it's got admin and upload, but it's got an emptiness here, empty one. It could become worse if I put a slash like that and press enter like so. Actually it doesn't, apparently, because we do split those at the end. I think we already do that somewhere here in the regex. Okay, but let me see what path URL contains that's causing this problem. So what I would do is dd, let's do that, and then let's do die. Okay, let's see what it contains that is leading it to be split like that. So because it has that initial split at the beginning, that's what's causing the initial slash, sorry. So we need to trim that. So we can do that trim either here or in here. So let's just try and trim it from here. So I'm just going to say trim like that. Now, just in case it has another slash at the end, I want that trimmed as well. So, but if we want to trim one side, we can do R trim or L trim for left and right. But let's just trim both with trim like that. And that should solve the problem. So let me refresh now. And we should get only 2 items in there, just like that. Okay, great. Now, if I had some other item here, which I think will nullify this route altogether, I think, yeah, we go to the 404, that's fine. So this is good right here. So now I know what page we are on, and I know what extension or method we're supposed to run here with these two. So all I need to do is get the URL1 item, and then I'll know what page I am on. Okay, now if we go to just the admin part, we only have this one item, we don't have the second one. Okay, so with this done, we can now go back to where is that? Just the main admin template, the admin TPL over here. Okay, so now we could put just an if statement directly in here. So what I want is to check for URL1. So I'm just going to say class is equal to, and then here we'll put an if statement. So I'm just going to say echo like that, and say if, for example, it's empty, let's just do empty, like if empty URL, this is an array, so URL1, if that's empty, empty checks for whether it exists or not as well at the same time. So if it's empty, then this part is active. So then we're going to echo this active part, then full colon for when it's not true. We just put an empty string and then close that PHP tag. So in order to see if this is working or not, let me refresh. You see this is selected right now. If I click elsewhere, nothing else will be selected, even this one, then we know it's working. So if I click here and that's not selected anymore, then it's working, right? So we just have to make the others clickable as well. Right now, this one is the only one that becomes clickable when you, or selected active when we click. So let's do exactly the same thing on the rest of them. So I'm just going to copy this class thingy here, and I'm just going to add it to the rest of these guys. So right up to here, I'm just going to copy this. I don't want it to, I want to select something unique here like that, so that I can move my arrow keys and then do a paste like that. Okay. All right. So now they're all responding to when this is empty, but that's not what we want. So we want the not empty That's what we want. So again, I should have done this before unselecting, but there we go. So if not empty, right, like that. Now an alternative to this is to add a short script here inside the PHP tags, and then so that we don't have to check for so many things. For example, here we're checking if it's empty before we check the value. Now if you don't want that, you can just put an if statement here that checks in advance and then sets it to an empty string if it does not exist. That way you don't have to do all of this, right? But let's see what we are doing here. And then let me go ahead and say if empty and if not empty and URL 1 is equal to, and then you set your value here. So for example here, this one is upload video. So you do the same thing for the rest of these. So my videos, the other one is analytics, and the other is my channel. So we kept going, profile and settings. Let's put settings here. All right, so with that, it is done. So let me get back here and let's give it a run. Okay, so we refresh, click upload, and there it goes. It works as intended. As you can see, the thing is getting selected when we click. Now, the thing I talked about that could make it look much cleaner, you could just put a PHP tag here and say page, or this is maybe a sub page, that's what we're going to call it. Sub page is equal to, and then we say URL 1, and then we know it might not exist. So if that happens, we set it to an empty string, and then we close that up like that. So that one line will substitute a few lines here. So let me copy that, and then so instead of saying yes, here we can say empty. So let's just put that here, or we can just say is equal to empty. So let's just say that equal to empty string like that, and then we can replace all of these now with one text like so. I think that's much easier to read if you ask me. So let's refresh, make sure there are no errors, and then let's click on these things and see it works exactly the same way. Alrighty guys. Okay, so at least things, wait a minute. Oh, settings doesn't seem to work well. So if subpage is equal to settings, then active. What is going on? If I click on the settings, it shows settings here, but this one is that one is active and settings is not. So that is not cool. So what's really going on here? I don't actually get it. So the only way is to try and see what we have in this one. So let's do that. What does subpage say at this point? Okay, apparently nothing. Let's use var dump, because even when the string is empty, it shows us something. Okay, so it's an empty string on settings, which is weird. It shouldn't be. Let's check what's inside URL. Let's refresh. Undefined variable URL. Okay, so I see what's going on. Okay, that's because in the controller we didn't add it. So let me copy that from the profile controller and go to the settings controller. Oh, wait a second, it's actually there. So what's going on? This URL. Okay, let's echo it from here and see. Let's see what's happening, right? We got to get to the bottom of this die. Let's see what it contains there. Okay, it does contain settings. So what is going on? This is strange, right? Admin settings. Yes, in the data, it has data. So what seems to be the problem? Settings, admin, settings. Oh, wait a minute. Nah, this is correct. Admin profile. Settings TPL. It extends. Everything seems fine. So what is going on? That is very, very strange. Let me see any differences between these two. No significant difference. You know, I know there's a problem somewhere that I need to be seeing, but sometimes this is what happens with coding. You can't see what's right in front of you, and that happens a lot. So just get used to it. Let me go to settings TPL, admin. Let me go back a few of those here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, for some reason now it's active. Oh, maybe the caching was going on. I don't know. Now it's working, I guess. Yeah, maybe the file was cached because I had never edited it. I think so. I don't know. Oh yeah, I think it was the caching. I'm not sure, but it's working now, and I haven't really changed anything unless I didn't see it but changed it. Who knows? Alrighty then, guys. There we go. Everything seems to be working as intended. Alright, so in the next video, let's make the groups for the router here, because we don't have groups and our routes are becoming longer, so that we could put these in one group. And we can also add the middleware. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video.